The 80s was a weird time, and no other movie portrays that decade better than TerrorVision. I mean, just look at this hair, and the music. Oh, and the swinging parents who lock their kid in a bunker just so they can have sex with strangers. Yeah, everyone remembers doing that back in the day. TerrorVision opens up on the planet Pluton, where we see some alien getting evaporated, and then they send him flying through space, bouncing off planets like it was a pinball. Now on Earth, we meet the Puttermans, and they are one of the craziest households I've ever seen. The dad, Stanley, is installing a new satellite dish, causing all the others' TVs to go out. Their grandpa lives with them, and he's just as crazy as the rest of them.
Hey, honeybee!
He thinks this new dish will pick up on enemy satellites. Yeah, he's a little cuckoo, but not any more than the rest of the family. Finally, Stanley resorts to my favorite way to fix things, pounding it with a hammer. A thunderstorm rolls in, and a bolt of lightning hits the dish. But we'll soon learn that that wasn't any ordinary bolt of lightning. There is some good news. The TV's fixed now, and Stanley proudly shows off his new toy. Even showing his children that they get the adult channels now.
Channel 69, Pop.
Stanley!
They fight over the remote and what to watch. Lightning comes out of the TV, and they all make some funny faces. Until it finally lands on a late-night horror show called Medusa. And all I have to say about her is, wowza. She must have some back pain nowadays. The doorbell rings and we meet Susie's boyfriend, O.D., played by a young John Grease, Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Or I remember him from the Sasquatch Gang.
Sasquatch! If that's you, you can come on out.
Anyway, he's as stereotypical as they come, the stoner metalhead, but he's actually pretty nice. We also learn, as I mentioned earlier, that the parents are swingers. They like to find other couples and trade for the night. That's actually how they got the inspiration for the decor of the house. The film crew visited other houses of LA swingers. If this is what they saw, wow, what a life. I mean, who keeps paintings like this in their house with 2 kids? Anyway, they're going out for the night, and Susie and O.D. go out too, leaving just Sherman and Grandpa home alone. What do they decide to do with their free time? Watch Medusa. Good choice. Well, she ends up showing the giant claw, and they fall asleep, which is actually pretty realistic. That movie would put anyone to sleep. While they zuzz on the couch, the channel switches over to the monster we saw in the beginning, and somehow it's able to come out of the TV into real life. These guys see it, and all 3 of them freak out. When they get the guts to look again, they see the monster's gone.
You see something, boy?
Grandpa thinks it was a burglar of all things, wearing a Halloween mask. So they arm up in his bunker and prepare for a fight. Meanwhile, Norton, the satellite salesman, shows up to see how things are going and check in on the dish. Grandpa finds him and he thinks he was the burglar. They bicker back and forth a bit, but nothing really ends up happening. Grandpa and Sherman head inside just as the monster shows up on the TV, making Norton its first victim. Soon after that, Grandpa's taken out too. Why does he have green blood? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all still a gory mess. Sherman runs in just in time to see the monster sucked back into the TV, and he just knows his grandpa's a goner. He hides out in his bunker and calls the police, but of course they don't believe him. I guess Sherman has a history of prank calls. Luckily, the monster's pretty slow.
It ain't Grandpa and the TV guy!
Outside, Mr. Cool shows up. I love that license plate. Well, Mr. Cool's just the parents and their new friends for the night. Spiro and Cherry. Also, I have to mention, Cherry's voice sounds just like a cartoon character.
I just really love your house here. It's so, I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Well, they come in to see Sherman still up and out of bed. They think he's sleepwalking, so Raquel shows him back to his room. But he's not having any of it. He knows that there's a monster in the house that just ate his grandpa. But Mom's sex drive's going off the charts, and she needs to get lucky tonight. So that means no kids. They knock on Grandpa's door, and we learn another trick the monster has. He can mimic the people he absorbs. So Raquel thinks he's fine, and she locks her son in with the monster, just so she can get some. While she's doing that, Stanley's showing their friends around the house, specifically a room called the Pleasure Dome, which, just like the rest of the art in the house, is pretty nuts, with a giant jacuzzi smack dab in the middle of the room. Of course, there's a TV in here too, and they turn on the channel to see another alien giving them a warning that they must destroy their TV sets for at least the next 200 years, but it already might be too late. Yeah, I think it is. Of course, they just think this is some crummy sci-fi movie.
Oh, that's kinky.
Well, Raquel and Spiro go to get drinks, and they get to know each other a little better, while Stanley's getting turned on by Cherry.
Holy tomatoes.
Again, the TV plays a warning about how something is heading towards Earth, and could result in the total annihilation of our species. Sherman's still watching Medusa. Yeah, when he was locked down in the bunker, the monster sucked himself back into the TV, so Sherman's safe for now. Anyway, he gets the bright idea to call Medusa's show. If the cops don't believe him, maybe she will.
Who's to tell me, Sherman? Currently under psychiatric care?
Well, I guess not. Raquel learns something interesting about Spiro. He's not here for her, but for Stanley. That's right, he's a gay swinger with a wife. Hey, whatever floats your boat, man. But when Stanley learns of this fact, well, he's not so cool with it, and he bursts into the jacuzzi room to give Spiro a piece of his mind. But when he gets there, it's empty, and the water's got some nasty goo in it. When they look closer, they see the monster, and it pops up to kill the parents. Stanley makes some pretty wild death faces too. As dumb as he looks, it made me laugh. On the other side of the house, we see Susie and OD have come home, and Sherman greets them at the door, warning them of the monster. But, of course, they don't believe him.
Honestly, Sherman, sometimes you are such a nerd.
She takes them to their parents' room, and sure enough, they're there.
Hi, kids.
Even Grandpa's here for the fun.
Just taking care of business.
The warning's still on the TV, and Sherman finally puts it together. He's talking about the monster.
Oh, psychedelic!
It pops out of the TV, and it's at this point I realized it kind of looks more like a pet, or a wild animal, just eating because it has to, not because it's evil or anything. It's about to kill OD, but then it sees his bracelets with the metal studs, and this must remind the creature of his old owner. I guess they are like pets. Now the kids seem to have some control over the monster, and they play around with it for a bit, feeding it food, playing music, and teaching it their names. The three discuss what to do now, and they end up deciding to capitalize on their new friend to make millions. Hey, I'd pay to see something like that. They team up as partners with a new goal, to get him on TV. But where do they start? Well, Medusa, of course. They call her up and see if she'll help.
Show's over, sucker.
And, well, just take a wild guess what she decides.
So tell me, Susie, is your whole family a little cuckoo?
But they tell her they're having a big party, and if she stops on by, they'll show her the monster.
Oh, yeah?
And we all know Medusa loves to party. While they wait, they get another visitor at the door. This time, it's the
I have
cops.
a warrant here for the arrest of Sherman Putterman.
They've had enough of Sherman's prank calls and have come with a warrant to arrest him. Pretty harsh for a kid. Well, they have bigger fish to fry because the monsters turn on them and it ate OD. Sherman's fighting it with guns and grenades, and the cop doesn't know what he got into here. The monster eats his gun and half of his hand, and then, off screen, it eats him whole. The kids prepare for a surprise attack, but of course it doesn't go as planned. They open fire, with Susie throwing the TV remote into the jacuzzi, electrocuting him. But that won't stop him for long. Just then, the Plutonian shows up. He explains to the Earthlings that on his planet, the monster is actually pretty lovable and nice. But they have the ability to mutate, and once they figure that out, it must be disposed of, as they become an unstoppable beast. The most humane way to kill them is to convert them to pure energy and then shoot them away to the far end of the universe. I guess that's better than the old Yeller way.
He was my dog. I'll do it.
They also get some good news too. If they're able to capture the beast alive, he could possibly extract their parents' DNA and all the other people it ate and regrow them. So that's the new plan. But that all gets squashed when Medusa shows up. She sees the kids talking to an alien, freaks out, and starts attacking him like he's the bad guy. She cracks his helmet, and that's all she wrote. Game over. What are they gonna do now? The monster breaks down the wall and starts sucking everyone towards it. Sherman grabs the space gun, but he can't really figure it out, and he too is sucked in, and I guess eaten. In the morning, we see Medusa's driver asleep in the car. She wakes him up, except she's not Medusa anymore. They sure don't make movies like this anymore, and that's a shame. TerrorVision is like a time capsule for future generations just to see how it was like to live in the 80's. It is kind of a weird movie though, because at times it seems like it was made for kids, but then you see all the weird art on the wall and the parents just trying to get laid, and you remember that no, this is most definitely not for kids. Everyone's overacting, especially the dad, but I think that was on purpose. The music is great, and the creature effects are real gross and gooey, just like you want. It is a little strange that the humans bleed green, though. I haven't really figured that one out yet. The idea that these aliens send their rejected pets as energy waves across the universe only to be picked up by a satellite dish is admittingly a bit crazy, but I like it. It's a way to modernize a horror flick. It's not too often you saw things coming out of the TV back then. In a way, TerrorVision is kind of like The Ring, but on acid. TerrorVision is a bit dumb, but it's also fun, and you can't ask for more than that. I give it 3 Mr. Cool license plates out of 4.
Look, Norton, if you're gonna hang out and guzzle my heinies, the least you could do is give me a hand here.
Sorry, Mr. P. The contract says repairs only.